Hi there and welcome to Transport and Trailer Sales. Today we'll be walking you through your 2025 Kingsport Amory Light 279BH. We are just going to start off at the back of the unit. If you notice up top, you're pre-mounted for an observation camera. If you'd like to get set up with that, it would be as simple as contacting your parts department. And then we will just start off at the back of the unit. Of course, you got your exterior shower. You got your standard 751 key to open up that guy, which should come included with your unit. Right next to it is the city water connection. So if you're at a site with service, you just throw the garden hose in there, turn it on. We'll pressurize all those lines without the need to run your water pump. You got your spare tire, and then you do have your fresh tank filled. So if you're out boondocking, campsite doesn't have water, or maybe just don't want to run city water, that's where you're going to fill up that fresh tank. That's what your water pump draws off of. Then if you come to this pumper tube, pull on it. That's typically where you're going to want to store your sewer hose after your first use. We have a brand new one located inside the front compartment, which is why there's not one in here yet. But that is where you would want to store it. Once you get to that point, in this corner, as well as all four corners of the unit, you do have stabilizer jacks. The way they work is you're going to run your 3/4 inch drive tool to your 3/4 inch drive nut, running this foot down to the ground. Once the foot does contact the ground, just give it another 8/4 turn to snug it up. It's going to take any bounce or sway you see we have in the unit right now away, but it is crucial that you pre-level the unit prior to doing this, as these are stabilizing jacks, not leveling jacks. If you try and use them to level the unit, there is the risk that you run of bending them. Keep that in mind. Hot water service port right up top. There's only really two things you need to worry about. This little power switch in that top left-hand corner. Typically, honestly, you can probably just leave it on, but if you wanted to, whenever the unit's in storage, you're not using it, you can turn it off. It's going to kill power to that thermostat inside. It's a pressure relief valve, so because this is a tankless system, it does work a little bit differently for winterization. If you had a tanked water heater before, you probably remember having bypass valves behind it, which you had to turn, blah, blah, blah. This is the total opposite. There's no bypass valves in the system. You don't turn anything. You just run antifreeze through the system like normal. And once you're done your winterization process, completely just cracking this pressure relief valve and leaving it cracked open for the duration of winter. And that's just so that when that antifreeze does start gelling up during those extremely cold Manitoba winter months, it has a place to go and it doesn't expand and crack inside your coils. You got your little drain here. You're going to notice this valve. That is the fresh tank drain for the unit. That's how you drain all the fresh water out. Got that sewer cap, twisting that off. Sewer hose connector right up. You got your black valve, which is the one you'll want to empty first. This is going to be your dirtiest water filled from your toilets. Then you can come behind that with your gray valve. It's typically a little cleaner water filled from your sinks and your showers. Right here you get your standard twist lock connection. Now of course we're using my shop adapter, so your cord might look a little bit differently, but it'll be the same idea. You just take a note of that notch there. It lines up with this notch on this side. Once you get those to line up, you're just pushing that to place firmly. 8th turn to lock it in, and then you got that thread collar to really lock it down. If you follow that cord back, you do have your standard 30 amp plug-in. Most campsites should have this. You can plug right on in, but let's say you have the unit at home and you want to run your fridge, or your campsite only has a 15 amp service, which is your standard household outlet. We do include that park adapter. Just keep in mind whenever you are using it. You're not going to be able to run your air conditioner. It's realistically just to run your fridge and your lights. Again, a little more up ahead, you got another stabilizer jack that I've already told you about. Solar plug-in case you had a portable solar panel. You could just plug it straight into there. It's already hardwired with front batteries. Inside that compartment, it goes right through to the other side. Beautiful little storage spot. And then around the front of the unit, you get your battery located inside this box here. And then underneath this cover is your 2 standard propane tanks. Most of the time you can get what you need done by just lifting open that cap like so. Give you access to the top of the tanks, but just for the purpose of the video, of course, and especially you will have to fill these. You can slide this cover off, in which case it reveals the 2 tanks. Obviously with this tank pointing to this side, you can be drawing off this tank, so if this tank were to go empty, you do just have to close it, flip this over to the other side, and then start drawing off this tank. And like that, counterclockwise, like any standard barbecue, to open up the flow of propane. Power tongue jack right at the front. You got another storage compartment, that's just the other side of it. Entryway door, which is where we get in today. Cable satellite hookup. You do get a couple little plugins they supply you for the outside. Then you get your furnace exhaust. Whenever your furnace is running, this will be blowing out hot air, so just be mindful of that. You get your range hood flap. whenever you get to your campsite, I always recommend popping that guy open again, so that once you do turn on that range hood to either evacuate the smells or just deal with the propane fumes, you're actually evacuating stuff and not just going into the back of a flap. And then of course, whenever you're not using the unit, have the unit in storage or whatever, or traveling, you just snap this into place. That closes that off. It's gonna stop any excess dust from getting inside of the unit. Also helps keep any critters out. Fridge service port, there's nothing really you need to worry about there. You come a little bit, look underneath the floor here. You do get 2 valves. Those are your low point drains. It's gonna be very crucial to crack those guys open for the duration of winter. And then of course, if you're not using the unit, it's the best place to crack open to allow most of the water out of the lines. It's also gonna go for if you're servicing any of the taps or water system at all. It's always gonna be a good idea to crack that first. That way you can drain whatever's in there. If you pop open this compartment, it does give you an exterior kitchen. You get a 110 mini fridge, so this will work, but only whenever hooked up to shore power. If it's not hooked up to shore power, it's not gonna run. It isn't 12 volt. And this is just like any standard fridge. Control is in the top corner. Last setting is gonna be the coldest setting, but just keep it in mind, you do have this travel strap here. It is here for a reason. It's to stop that fridge from going flying around whenever you're driving. You get your little griddle, pull it out and towards you. Now I know they said this unit's used, but look at how fresh that top is. And you get a sweet deal. If you run this hose down, you're probably wondering, well, great, now I have to carry a second propane tank. Now, they already got you covered on that one. They got this line that runs right back. It's called a quick connect. It's plumbed already into your front tank, so you don't have to carry anything extra with you. You just pull back on the collar like so, insert that line into place. That locks it. That then will allow you to open up the flow of propane. As an added safety feature, you can operate that coupler with the flow of propane open, so you would have to close it to disconnect it, but then you would just be able to fire up your griddle like any standard barbecue. Again, whenever you're not using it though, just be very important, you do put the dust caps into place. That's just going to keep those ends fresh and any debris from getting inside of them causing you grief down the road. And then just all slides back into place, of course, but I won't bore you with that. To get inside, you're just taking that assist handle, push it up fully at 90 degrees. That will allow it to lock into place and allow you to open up your door. You do have to have your door open all the way to get your stairs down, but just notice with your door all the way open, it does run into contact with that awning arm. So before you ever run your awning, I always recommend triple checking that you have your door closed 90 degrees, just enough for that awning to be able to travel back and forth freely, because if you don't, you could damage it and it does get pretty pricey pretty quickly. Now you can pull those stairs towards you and they fold on down. Now you do have adjustable feet. You just got tabs on either side that you have to lift. It'll slide into the corresponding channels. The goal is to get those stairs, get this black catch plate sitting as close to the silver catch plate as possible so the door can open and close freely. Then you're ready to take a step on inside, which is the best part. Off on the left is that fire extinguisher, which is just like home. Pull the pin and shoot. On the wall here, it's going to be pretty much your main control system for the unit. Got a couple different light switches. That first one's going to do that awning light outside. The second one is going to do these couple Pendaman lights inside the kitchen, and the third one is going to do some accent lighting inside the slide out in the main living space. Next, you get your monitor panel system. Pushing the button tells you the corresponding level of the tanks and the battery. And then, of course, you get your water pump switch, which draws out of your fresh tank, of course, and then you get your water heater switch. Turning that on supplies power to the thermostat here, and then it turns itself on, up and down at any time, any time to change your set temperature, Celsius and Fahrenheit with the press of a button. And now, because this is a tankless water system, it does work a little bit differently. They can be finicky. How they like to be operated is, you're probably wondering, well, how do I know where I want that temperature set? Essentially, this system works the most efficiently is if when you turn on the hot, is with only the hot on that you find it comfortable. If it's too hot, they don't want you to blend in the cold, only because the system does work off of flow. Essentially, when they say it's a tankless system, there's a bunch of copper coils wrapped around in a circle, and then there's a big flame in the middle. As the water flows through, it does get heated. So if you go to crack on that cold line, it changes the flow, in which case changes your water temperature. That's going to allow for either cold spots because the water heater is going to think it's overheating, and so on and so forth. So again, just set that temperature to exactly where you find it comfortable with just the hot on. Other than that, you got your awning control. I will go over that. Again, I'm just gonna close that door 90 degrees so I don't wreck your trailer before you even get it. Push that extend button, the awning's gonna start making its way out. Now, unfortunately today, I'm not sure if we're gonna be able to get it all the way out just because we are a little pressed for space. But once that awning would be at its full extension, you would see the rubber flap hanging down to the back window too. Sometimes the flap can get stuck, so you might just have to retract it a couple feet to get it to come down, like you're seeing right now. Once you retract it that couple feet, it does then come down. Now, if it were to start raining, you can take any arm, front to rear, of course, making sure this is loosened off. I always, when you do loosen it off, recommend leaving it loose, so when you go to adjust it the next time, it doesn't give you too hard a time. But you just pull in like that, and then at that point, you can tighten up this knob. Once the knob is tight, it will hold that pitch, and now it'll allow water to now run off. Now, of course, if you like that angle better, because it's going to allow for more shade underneath, you can do the same thing with the front arm. Just try and remember before you bring it in that you do loosen these guys off, and as you're loosening them off, kind of having a hold on it, because it will just shoot up if you're not holding onto it, which isn't great for it. But just allow these back to their natural resting positions before you actually bring the awning in. That way you don't run the risk of bending anything. And then to get it in, it would be as simple as holding that retract button. The awning would start rolling its way in, and once the arms contacted the side of the trailer, the motors would automatically cut out. But I'm not going to bore you with that. We'll move over to our slide out now. Now, before you ever run your slide out, I always recommend doing a visual check inside and out. And what I mean by inside, especially when it's this easy to walk around in, it's so spacious with even the slide out in, is just do a quick visual check, making sure that nothing's shifted during travel. It's going to get caught in between your slide out and the wall, causing damages. And then, of course, just on the outside, making sure you have enough space to put it all the way out without running it into anything. Now, I already know that I can't get this slide out all the way out without damaging something, so I'm going to stop before that happens. But technically, if you were outside, you have to have that slide out all the way out. Otherwise, moisture, when it rains, will make its way in, and it'll slowly rot your trailer, which is no good. So whenever you're camping inside the unit, you always have to make sure you put the slide out all the way out, and you'll know that slide out's at its full extension when you hear the motors wind up and click. Now, that's all we're going to be able to go out today, just because, again, I know I don't have enough space to go that way. But how you would know is if you just run your hand out, you should be able to feel this rubber seal butted up against the wall. Obviously, it's not like that right now, just because it's not all the way out. Now, we can just start off in the front of the trailer. It's the bedroom space. Turning that light switch on the right. It's your pretty standard bedroom space. Over on the wall here, got your TV backers. If you wanted to mount a TV, you see somebody probably already has. That's going to be the best place to do so. You got your power hookups, of course, in that top right-hand corner. That fire exit's going to be on the right. You're just going to push up on that handle, push it out, and try and hop out of the unit. Of course, just paying attention to how high you are off the ground. Try and go feet first. But if there's a fire, just getting out as quickly as possible is pretty important. Pick up at the foot. That does give you access to a massive little storage spot in case you want to carry any extra blankets with you. You got plugins on both sides of the bed. Storage, of course. Now, whenever you are using any of the storage in the unit, just be mindful of drains, water lines, and wiring. You don't be wanting to affect any of that too much. Now, on the wall, you get your TV. It's on a swivel mount, but you have to pull down on the things, and then that'll allow you to get it off and all that good stuff. Right down below is going to be, again, pretty standard. You get your fireplace. Power button on the far right to turn it on. The button to the left does your timer. It goes anywhere from 30 minutes to, I think, 5 or 6 hours. And then you get your heat setting, your light settings that you can play with. And then you get your temperature settings. It's going to go to high. Then if you push it 2 more times, it'll go over to low. Power button again on the far right to turn it off. In your main slide out area, this couch does fold down into a bed in case you had any extra guests that weren't going to fit inside the bunk space. Again, you have this area you can occupy as well. You just have to pick up on the foot. It's going to fold itself out. All the blinds in the unit, for the most part, do work the same way. They just kind of sit where you leave them. In the dinette area, again, it's currently set up as a seating space, but this also does turn down into a bed as well. You just have to remove the feet from underneath the tabletop. Set your tabletop on its desired ledges, and then take your back cushions to fill in the center. In our kitchen space, tons of storage. Furnace output. this is going to be the one and only furnace output inside this unit. So if you wanted to get a little fan to move some air around, it's going to be recommended just to move that air throughout a little bit better. Up above my head, you get your main AC output. It's going to dump all its air out of here. Sink, microwave, just like home, not much I'm going to show you there. Range hood, and then it brings me to my stove. Now, since we're talking about our stove, I always recommend running your range hood whenever you're using the stove, because as propane does burn off, it takes oxygen out of the air. Now, because we're speaking about that, we got our LP detector right here near the ground. If that guy does ever start going off, don't panic. Just turn off the main supply at the front of the unit, open up some windows and vents, and get some fresh oxygen inside here. Now, I'm going to go over a few propane notes only because I think it's super important. Whenever you turn the system off at the front of the trailer, and especially if you disconnect one of the bottles, it does allow air into the system. Once air makes its way in, it does have to be purged out. Now, the quickest, easiest way to do this, and I tell every customer this, is by firing up your stove. And the reason I say that is because you get to decide how long the gas runs for and how many lighting sequences it goes through. If you want to go to try to fire up your water heater, your furnace, or your fridge before you actually purge the system, those systems will only try lighting themselves a couple times, and if they don't sense a flame because there's no actual gas getting to them yet, it's going to throw a fault code. And if you don't know what the fault code means, especially when it comes time to something you're needing right now, it could throw a little wrench into your weekend. So we do want to keep the good times coming. So just come to your stove first thing when you get to your campsite. Now, because it's a gas stove, just be safe whenever you're doing so. Of course, hold your face back a little bit. And as soon as you do turn on that gas valve, just be ready to hit that igniter. And the reason being is because as air is pushing itself through, it's not going to light. And sometimes it can take a few seconds, so just be patient with it. I know it's going to fire up pretty quickly today. That's only because I had the system running earlier. But if you're not hitting that igniter every few seconds, and then you did start to have gas come up, and then it had a buildup, there could be a minor combustion when there's a source of ignition. And if your face was close by, you're going to lose some eyebrows and eyelashes, and that doesn't sound like fun. So again, go over to the high option, hit that igniter, and it does fire right on up. Again, sometimes it can take a few minutes, so just be patient with it. To hit the oven light, it's pretty much the exact same thing, except you're turning it over to the pilot option, pushing and holding the knob in, hitting the igniter. At some point, that bottom pilot should light. I'm going to warn you, this could take exceptionally long to light just because the gas orifice for that pilot is so small. But once that pilot's able to light and stay lit without you pushing in on the knob, you can turn it up to your desired temperature and it fires right on up. Oven light switch right next to it. Underneath your fridge, you get your main fuse and breaker panel. Whenever a breaker trips, it'll sit in the middle, so you just have to turn it off and then back on again to reset it. Which brings me to my fridge and freezer combo. Power button right here, push and hold it for about 3 to 5 seconds, and that turns the fridge on. Green light comes on. You're gonna see mode. When that little plug is there, that's AC power, so you're hooked up to shore power, and that's what it's gonna be running off of. Temperature setting, obviously push it. The amount of snowflakes is, the more snowflakes, the colder it's gonna be. But that mode button, if you push and hold it, it'll allow you to change over to gas. Now, the fridge, especially when you do switch it over to gas, always stick around for about 5 minutes and make sure that it actually lit. Even once the system's purged, sometimes this may not light the first time. You may have to light it a second time. So just be mindful of that, because I've personally had times where I was leaving the next morning, turned the fridge on to propane, walk away, came back the next morning, the fridge never actually lit and was still warm. And warm food does not usually end well on a camping trip. But again, push and hold that button for about 3 to 5 seconds, and then it'll turn itself off. Brings us to our thermostat. Everything's going to be pretty much run through here for your HVAC system. Push and hold the power button. That's going to turn it to your last known setting. In this case, is fan. That's moving air around using the air conditioner. There's no heating or cooling involved. One more time, I'm going to bring it to dry. Now, that's a dehumidifying mode to try and take as much moisture out of the air as possible using the air conditioner. One more time. Now, that's going to bring you over to cool. Whenever you're in cool, when you choose your fan setting, I'm going to always recommend using that auto setting, as it means it's an on-demand system. So if the room's currently 73 and we have it set to 69, once the room actually reaches 69, it'll kill the air conditioner. If you have that fan setting on either high or low, even once the room hits 69 degrees Fahrenheit, that air conditioner will run continuously until you actually manually turn this off. One more button, that's going to take you out of the air conditioning mode and take you into the furnace mode. The furnace is its own entity. It runs off propane. Again, I'm going to recommend pre-purging the system. And this goes for anything that runs propane. Always try it a second time if it doesn't like the first time, because it could just be something as stupid as a purging issue. And then once that's done, you can push it again and it'll just cycle you back over to your first option, and then just push and hold the power button to turn it back off. Inside your bathroom space, it's pretty much your bathroom space, but then right in front of you, you do have your main GFI plug. You got your reset button here, reset in the middle, test down below. If you ever have an outlet that doesn't work, this would be the first place I would look. Right above my head, you get that roof vent fan. So if you're making a stinker, you want to crack her open, that's great and dandy and everything, but try and remember to close it, because if it were to start raining, it's going to get wet inside of here. Now, if you wanted, we do sell Max Air covers here at the shop. It's going to be a cover that goes over top of this vent lid. That's going to allow you to leave that open during travel without having to worry about it. It's also going to allow you to leave that open during rainfall and not have to worry about getting wet inside here. It's even going to add a little bit of extra protection against hail. Again, that is something our lovely parts department does sell and something I can install. So if you'd like to get set up with that, just call us up, 204-232-7272, and get into contact with our parts department. It's going to be it inside the bathroom. And then last but not least, you do get into the bunk room. All the lights in the bunk room are on their own, maybe not on their own center push buttons. They're on the light switch on the wall. This door here, you're going to notice there is a travel strap here. It's there for a reason, because if it's not there, this door just travels around freely. And although it may not cause much damage other than itself, it's still not fun to replace. So always try and remember before you start traveling just to triple check that this is actually snapped and locked. Other than that, it is just bunk space in here. A little closet at the back. That's going to be it for this unit here. If you have any other questions, feel free to give us a call.